Welcome into Checkpoint XP, your home for esports and gaming. Joining us is Nicola Piggott. She's a member and the co-founder of Story Mob. Nicola, thank you so much for joining us here on Checkpoint.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how the Story Mob got started.
Sure. So I have worked in communications for about a long time, about 15 years. And I was formerly with Riot Games. I headed up eSports communications there for about just under 6 years. The Story Mob was put together when myself and two other co-founders, Anna Rosvandovitz, who was head of PR at ESL, and Kaylee Moore, who was head of PR at Bitcraft, came together. We wanted to create something that was specific to esports within the comms industry. We didn't see anything out there in the market that that had that knowledge about esports, that had that passion for it. And we thought that, it would be a nice idea to be able to work across lots of different brands, teams, organizations, tournament organizers, and really to sort of, help up the communication game in esports as a whole. So Story Mob was founded about a year and a half ago. And since then, we've been working with brands including Riot, Team Liquid, G2, and plenty others in the space.
Now, you guys have a very diverse background of clients, from teams to investors and everything else in between. What are some of the challenges to having such a diverse group of clients in one space?
Yeah, so our one prerequisite is that whoever you are, right, be you a team or a brand, a consumer brand or an investor, you need to be interested in making a real difference in the esports space, right? We don't take anybody looking to, make a quick buck out of the space, which, they can be hard to recognize, but once you do, you don't go back.
Well, that is really pertinent, though, because a lot of people do look at the booming esports industry as a quick turnaround, as a quick place to make a quick buck.
You're not wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're only in it with people who are either in it for the long haul or really looking to make a difference in the space. We work across, like I said, we work across teams. Our work with teams is amazing. The two that I mentioned, Team Liquid and G2, are on top of the world right now across multiple different sports. But even when things are going competitively well, it's brilliant. Even when they're not, there's so many interesting things with working with a competitive roster and working with athletes that we've admired for years. So that's brilliant. Working with brands is super interesting as well. Consumer brands that are sort of looking to dip a toe in the space or looking to capitalize on an existing foothold and need some guidance, right? Like this is a new audience for them. A lot of the time they make mistakes, not because they're being careless, but because they don't know any better. So communications mistakes happen, and we're here to see that they don't. Investors, service providers, like I said, the one thing that brings all of these guys together is that they're legitimately looking to make esports better in some way.
So sports are all about stories. Talk to us about the difference in presenting an esports story versus, one out of traditional sports, if there is actually any difference.
So I think there's a lot of common ground, right? Like the reason we cheer for traditional sports is the same reason we cheer for esports, because we believe in human stories, right? Like I grew up supporting a football club, and the reason I did that is A, because it was where I was from, and B, also because I believed in the players, I believed in their stories, I believed in comeback stories and struggles and triumphs and legacies, and all of these things exist in esports as well. And I think we've done a really good job as an industry of trying to step up to those examples set to us by traditional sports. Where I'd like to see us push a little further is I think there's areas where esports isn't just equal to traditional sports. It's better. And there's a couple of examples of that. One being the connection that these athletes have with their audience. When I look at double lift, I see somebody who represents me, right? Who represents my interests, my passions, represents, things that I was interested in growing up. And I also see somebody who's uniquely connected to me. I can watch him stream, I can watch him practice, I can ask him questions, I can watch him meme and troll on social media and feel like he's part of my community. Whereas when I look at, I don't know, LeBron James, let's just say, he's great, but I don't feel that same connection with him. I think of him as sort of more of like on a pedestal, more of a sort of statue. And I think esports has this amazing possibility to really redefine the way that fans relate to their sportsmen. So one of the things that we're trying to do is encourage, anybody, be it brands or teams or anybody, to tell more three-dimensional stories about these guys. So often we try and make them, these sort of very 2D sports heroes, and we ignore all the things that are super interesting about them, all the quirky, relatable, the kind of the weird details, which is the reason why fans at home love them. So that's definitely the foremost difference for me when it comes to storytelling.
And I love the fact that you mentioned human drama, because that is, of course, at the heart of every great esports and sports story. You're listening to Checkpoint XP Esports and Gaming Radio. We're sitting down with Nicola Piggott.
So all the founders of Story Mob are women. This is incredibly important and unique, given that statistically, though, there are more female gamers than males. So can you talk about some of the challenges and the importance of a female-led organization in esports and in the gaming space too?
Yeah, totally. So it depends on the game you're looking at, obviously, as to your kind of your gender balance. But we just happen to be women in the space. I'm not suggesting it was by accident, but when we came together, we got a lot of attention straight away for being a female-led, female-founded company. And I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's wonderful to have a positive role model in the space for other women that are thinking about, professional opportunities in esports, the outside of pro players. But I also think that, hopefully being women isn't the most interesting thing about us. So I like that when we put out a job application, when we put out a job requirement, we get a ton of application from women who are saying, that they're really inspired by a female-led company. It's awesome. At the same time, I think that what we need generally as the esports industry grows and matures is for this not to be such an oddity, that it's not the first thing that people think about when they think about the company. As we've grown, I'm delighted to say we've also brought on some dudes, because somebody's got to think of the dudes.
Yes, in the esports space, no one ever thinks of the guys.
No one ever thinks of the dudes.
Yeah,
Will
that never
somebody
happens.
just think of the guys? So I'm like I said, super proud to be a professional woman in the space. Like talking about it, like encouraging other women. I'm hoping that in 10 years this is just sort of one other thing, as opposed to all the other things that we do.
So, I've got you here for an interview. I have to ask about Sneaky. Cloud9's AD carry is just notorious for some unbelievably incredible cosplay. And I just want to get your thoughts on, telling Sneaky's story to the world. So
we picked Sneaky. So we put together a guide of esports storytelling. And one of the examples that we picked was Sneaky. I'm so inspired by this story. So for anyone who doesn't know, Sneaky plays for Cloud9. He's been at the top of his game for a couple of years. And one thing that he does is he does these incredible cosplays, female cosplays from League, for a few other things I think he might be branching out, but they're so intricate and so amazing. And what's cool about them is he doesn't make a big deal out of the fact that he's cosplaying, in female costume. It's just kind of what he does, and the reason he does that, I think, is because they're the most interesting, most complex costumes that he could attempt. I can't think of another sport where this wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world. I genuinely can't. I think this guy just casually doing these fabulous cosplays is so inspiring, and it brings out a really cool side of the community too, who admire him for it, who cheer him on, and who don't necessarily, although obviously there's a subset that that troll him about it, but who don't necessarily make it about gender, or tease him for it, or think that it says something about his sexuality or any of those things. Like I again, like, this is the reason I love the esports space and I love the esports community, is because this is just the kind of thing that happens, without it having to be this massively emphasized, massively politicized, kind of statement. And also I just really love cosplay. I think the cosplays that he put together are incredible.
They're so good.
They're so good. Like I've been seeing cosplay almost every day for 6 years, and he's up there, man. Like it's amazing. So props to him.
And genuinely, if this is a player in the NFL, that is headline one.
Can you imagine?
ESPN. It'd be a madhouse. But here you have, when most people hear the name Sneaky in the esports space, they go, "Oh yeah, Cloud9's AD carry. He's really good."
Yeah,
it's not even like, and if you know the cosplay scene, you go, "Oh yeah, the one who does all the great League of Legends cosplays. He's really good."
Yeah,
that's all it is.
He's just known for being great,
really good.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Like I think he's just doing the cosplays because he thinks he can do really well at it, because he's trying to challenge himself to do something really, like to the top of his game, and that's so cool. Like,
I'm so jealous of someone who has that much skill at, of course, at League of Legends and cosplay. I know. What does his schedule look like?
I think, for what it's worth, props should also go. I think it's his girlfriend, who's like a makeup artist, a cosplayer, who helps him with it. But either way, like, what did she like? The pictures themselves are incredible, and he keeps upping the stakes each time.
Nicola, you just made me feel so much better to hear that his girlfriend helps with the makeup, because I'm sitting here as a gender fluid person going, wow, that makeup is way better than anything I could ever do. That's not okay. I've been practicing for years.
We can all pick up a few tips, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I know I have.
You're listening to Checkpoint XP Esports and Gaming Radio. We're sitting down with Nicola Piggott, co-founder of the Story Mob. And listen, I gotta ask, what's the next big thing that's happening at Story Mob? What's in the future for you
that
guys?
You can tell us?
Yes, that you can share with us.
Okay, so let's see. We've sort of more corporate-y stuff. We've expanded a fair bit. We're now at 12 people in LA and in Europe, which is awesome. Working on some really fun stuff. Some stuff I can't tell you, but some stuff we are working with the Premier League in the UK on the second season of their EPL.
You just got Norris's interest big time.
Dude. Like, as a Brit, like, this is such a dream for me. It's so cool to see, esports players coming in jerseys and Arsenal jerseys, and it's amazing. We last season we got to go to some of the playoffs at the club HQs, and my British heart just burst with delight. So that's coming up. As I mentioned, the teams we're working with are just on an incredible roll at the moment. I genuinely think Team Liquid have and G2 too have a really good chance to see each other in the final for Worlds this year, which a year ago, 5 years ago, was unheard of for two Western teams at Worlds. So I'm super, super excited to be there in Paris and cheer them on. And lots and lots of secret stuff that we can't talk about, unfortunately.
Nicola Piggott, the co-founder of the Story Mob, has been our guest here on Checkpoint XP. Nicola, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
Okay, Nicola, I have to ask this. What club were you a supporter of?
So I grew up in Wimbledon, which is like a small suburb in London. So I grew up supporting Wimbledon FC, who won the FA Cup in '88.
Yeah.
Lest we forget.
So only close to 30 years ago.
I'm just happy she didn't say anything like MK Dons or something like that.
You just give me my moments. It's fine. They got relegated almost immediately afterwards, so it's kind of a bummer. But I lived all over London, so I supported Spurs for a little while when I lived in Tottenham. I'm sorry. But and now I support them all equally because we work with the league. So I have no favorites. They're all my children.
Oh, deep down somewhere, you still have a favorite.
No, 10 times in the mirror before bed every night. They're all my favorites.
Nicola, thank you so much for your time today. This has been an excellent conversation. And thank you so much.
You are always welcome back for any reason we can find whatsoever.
I would love that.
All right, guys, on the stream, stick around. We'll be back in just a minute here on Checkpoint XP.